Well, with predictions mounting on just how high the Liberal government's deficit could grow, it's time to get the view from the Hill with MPs from the three federal parties. Joining me from Montreal is David Lametti, a Liberal MP from Quebec. We have opposition House Leader Andrew Scheer from Regina, and NDP finance critic Guy Caron is coming up to us via FaceTime from the lovely city of Rimouski, Quebec. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, let's talk about what we've been hearing for the past few weeks, the Liberals channeling that the deficit could go far beyond $10 billion. Mr. Scheer, I'll just start with you. Is there an appetite by Canadians to see that deficit go much higher than that?
I don't think there's an appetite for deficits at all. Experts have shown, the Department of Finance, Parliamentary Budget Officer, that we left the Liberals with a balanced budget, with a surplus. And we worked very hard to get to that point. It took a lot of fiscal discipline. We saw during the campaign the Liberals say that they would shoot for deliberately attained $10 billion deficits, and now that target has gone sailing by. Everyone knows that deficits today mean higher taxes tomorrow. We haven't seen anything, any sense that the Liberals are going to proceed with any kind of caution on this. So I'm worried that what they're telegraphing to Canadians right now is that there will be a massive deficit, much beyond what they warned Canadians there could be during the election campaign.
Okay, Mr. Lametti, we heard your boss, the Prime Minister, say earlier on this program that Canadians elected him on a mandate to run deficits, but how comfortable would you be? What would be the cap that you would be comfortable with to see a deficit this year?
Well, I'll leave the actual cap and the actual figures to the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister. I think what is clear, I mean, two things. One is the only people in this country who believe that we were actually left with a surplus is the small rump of the Conservative Party that remains in opposition.
Actually, in fact, Deputy Minister of the Finance Department as well.
In fact, we promised that we would invest in infrastructure. That is precisely what we're going to do. We have seen the economy since the budget in 2015, since the election, even since the new year, we have seen a drop in the price of oil. We've seen the economy and economic factors deteriorate. So it makes it even more important to invest in the economy, invest in infrastructure spending in order to relaunch the economy. And we've got precisely the plan to do it. Moving forward, it's what we promised Canadians, and it's what we plan to deliver on.
Mm. Okay, Guy Caron, does the NDP have trouble with the deficit going beyond the $10 billion that the Liberals campaigned on?
Well, in the situation that we're at, and that's the danger when you're over-promising during a campaign. Danger is that we'll fall back in a cycle of structural deficit. We don't necessarily have a problem when it's well invested and when you can actually get a rate of return for your investment. Our fear in terms of infrastructures, and we don't deny that the need is actually there for infrastructure, there's a huge deficit in the country, is that just to say that they have invested, they have spent on infrastructure, that they will actually spend left and right on projects that will not necessarily bring economic growth, that won't necessarily increase productivity, and those type of projects should be a priority for any infrastructure programs. Other elements that the Liberals should actually go towards too are actually making sure that the money that will go into the hands of individuals will actually go where it will be spent. The tax cut was not going towards the middle class. It was primarily benefiting those over $90,000 and up to $200,000. It's a lot less efficient to actually put money in the hands of these people than those of the real middle class or even low income who will be spending in the communities. So it's all a matter of choices. If you are going into a deficit, make sure that it will bring a rate of return for the economy.
And you raised a good point. I wanted to go back to Mr. Lametti. Yep. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, we're going to institute a new child tax, a new child benefit in Canada in the next budget, which will do nothing for single people, 300,000 kids out of poverty. And we are going to target those kinds of infrastructure investments that will, in fact, relaunch the economy and will leave economic benefit for generations moving forward.
Okay, and I just wanted to stay with you. Sorry, Guy, just stand by here. Mr. Lametti, I just wanted to touch on something here. How much pressure, as you being an MP on the government side, how much pressure is on you by your constituents to boost spending on projects, the various projects in your community, considering finances are strained? You made reference to it yourself.
Yeah, well, in fact, there's a lot of uptake in the community. I'm getting this from constituents. I'm getting this from elected municipal leaders all the time. They want us to really invest in the kinds of investments that the previous government didn't want to make for the last 10 years. So it's a matter of building social housing. It's a matter of working on transportation infrastructure. These are all things that are coming from both people in my constituency and elected municipal politicians and provincial politicians. I had a meeting with two today on this very point.
Andrew Scheer, I suspect you're going to strongly disagree with what he said. A lot of the... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're already starting to see some of the spin coming from the Liberals. It's not just the Conservatives that believe that we left the Liberals with a balanced budget. It's also the entire finance department. So if Mr. Lametti disagrees with me on that, I wonder, does he also disagree with the Deputy Minister, with the officials who prepared his own minister's report that showed that we left them with a balanced budget? They are the ones that are deciding to go into deficit. Yeah, there's probably a lot of pressure on MPs, government MPs, to spend more money. There's a lot of groups out there that hire well-paid lobbyists to tell us how we can spend more money. But the millions of Canadians who have to pay for that, they don't want to see their taxes go up. They don't want to see Canada rack up billions in additional debt. We were able to launch the largest infrastructure program since the Second World War, while at the same time keeping taxes low and working back to balanced budgets. It is possible, but what the Liberals are signaling is that they don't care about balancing the budget, they don't care about racking up additional debt, and they don't even believe their own officials that they inherited a surplus. So I think what Canadians are seeing is that there are a lot of talk. I think the Liberals ran a classic third-party campaign where they said whatever they needed to any particular group to gain support. They won the election, and now they've got all these promises lingering out there that they're going to have to figure out how to pay for.
We made prudent
what
promises.
Canadians are learning is that check is going to be, that tab's going to be really high.
Okay, Guy Caron, Andrew Scheer said the Liberals are campaigned like a third party. The NDP, of course, now in third. Would you support the Liberals? And I asked you this question earlier, but would the NDP support perhaps a higher consumption, raising consumption taxes, or seeing a deficit grow far beyond the $10 billion mark?
Well, you know, when the Liberals presented their tax cut program, which actually aimed at reducing the second bracket, so those making over $45,000, and the full benefit went to actually those making over $90,000, we instead suggested to reduce the first bracket to actually have a tax cut for more people, and especially the lower income people. And the remaining of the money, because the spending would have been pretty close, but the remaining could actually have been done with a small increase of 0.5% of the corporate tax. And increasing revenue through that fashion is not even considered by the Liberals right now. They are going to be spending, and they're not looking at ways on how to increase revenues in that sense. So I think there's one large part of the equation that's missing.
Richard,
okay,
if I
final
may,
word, I'm going to give it. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may,
quickly.
Yes, we targeted the middle class in our tax cut, and we will help lower income Canadians as well. We are going to be prudent. What is important is the debt to GDP ratio. We are going to aim to make sure that continues to decline even as we go into deficit. That's the critical part of the question. We're not going to be uncautious in all this. We're going to be careful. Yes, we will have deficits, but we're going to invest properly.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it at that. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more of that line, debt to GDP ratio, as a budget gets presented around the third week of March. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.